Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Superman issue 7 by Joshua Williamson, Gleb Melnikoff, Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapmund and Edwin Galman. Not only is this the 7th issue of Williamson's run, but it's also the series' overall 850th issue. It's a pretty big landmark, so the issue is oversized. Williamson uses these extra pages to push every single one of his several plots forward, beginning with The Chained and rolling it into Perry White's announcement for Mayor, which The Chained attacks. We haven't really seen much of Perry White during this run, mainly thanks to his stroke at the beginning of the run, kind of took him out of commission and led to Lois becoming the editor-in-chief, and now with a new outlook on life, he's deciding to run for mayor. And these few pages are really quite cool, as Williamson uses them to share Perry's experience with Superman and how the hero made the impossible things possible for him and the rest of the city. Surprisingly, Williamson also connects the Chain's origin to Perry, as Mr. White recognizes the man as Sam Stryker, the son of Sebastian Stryker, the man who made Stryker's Island Penitentiary. Williamson doesn't give us any more answers than that, though I have to assume it is tied into the entire plot with Perry seemingly keeping Lex's time as a hero when he was younger a secret and kind of burying all those stories and everything, so I have to imagine he was working with Lex at that time, or working with at least Sebastian Stryker, which is really interesting and a really interesting way to take Perry's story, since Perry never really gets like interesting stories. He's usually just the secondary character, the guy who's just around chomping on his cigars and yelling at Jimmy Olsen or Lois or someone. So Williamson is doing a great job making him actually matter and making him more than just a supporting character who comes in every now and then. The Superman family soon arrive to battle Chained, as Superman manages to free himself from the box by using all of his powers at once, overloading the system since he can only deal with one at a time. Clark is able to aid his family but can't convince Sam that he is there to help, since Sam knows the building with the giant S on it, like the same S on Superman's costume, used to be the LexCorp building. Sam also reveals a cool tie between him and Connor Kent, as both have tactile telekinesis, which makes sense given that Lex created both of them, so in a way, Sam is Connor's distant relative, and Connor is like the newest version of what Lex was trying to do with Sam. That's a really cool way to tie Connor into the main story arc and give him an interesting perspective on the story, and Williamson has been great at giving each of the Superman family and the members of the Superman family an interesting plot to follow or a role in the ongoing story, most of which are branching out into their own books like Steelworks, the Power Girl book, and the upcoming Supergirl book. The Chained attacking the Superman family and just seeing all these things tying Lex and Superman together, it feels very deliberate, and it feels like this is Lex orchestrating this all to weaken Superman and his family just to get one over on him, and also to get one over on Farm and Graft, who also make an appearance this issue and offer a partnership to Sam so they can all get revenge on Lex Luthor together. Williamson also continues to push Lois's story forward as well, and she ends up getting to see Lex in hospital, and Lex actually has a rather vulnerable moment where he shares his true reasons for hating Superman, something he's never actually done before, and it's not because he's an alien or has superpowers and he doesn't, it's because Superman revealed to Lex his own flaws. It leads to a wonderful bit of text from him where he says when he was a hero, he always thought being a hero was sacrificing a piece of yourself for other people, and Superman showed him that that really isn't the case, and that if you stare into the abyss stares back. But what if the abyss stares at Superman? Like, who's the first to blink, almost, sort of thing. And it's really interesting take on Lex's hatred for Superman, since it isn't really hatred at all. It's more hatred in himself and what he wasn't able to do, whereas Superman was able to come in and kind of flawlessly help make the city a better place. Something that Lex looks like he was striving to do while he was a hero. So I'm intrigued to see Williamson pick that plot up a little later on in the issues when inevitably Lex and Superman meet again and discuss this sort of stuff. This is really interesting, and really interesting take on Lex, as well as a different way to get him to be a hero, since he has been a hero before various times, and it's all been for various different reasons, and here is no different. This is a vastly different reason than why he was a hero the last time, and I'm intrigued to see them follow up on that. Gleb Melnikoff, Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapmund and Edwin Galman bring their best of the best for the 850th issue, and every page is just a treat on the eyes. Gleb again tackles the main story like he did last issue and continues to make the action look fantastic, giving each page a great amount of movement and speed to it, especially during the battle between the Superman family and the Chained, and how the Chained uses the city against them. I thought that was quite an interesting way to have a battle play out. Dan Jurgens and Norm Rapmund take the back half of the issue and make it feel like classic Superman, while Edwin Galman gives us a little bit more of a modernized look with his dark sci-fi artwork focusing on Brainiac. Edwin's colors really pop off the page, and the way he draws Superman with this huge billowing cape that takes up most of the double page spread it's on is just so cool, and very reminiscent of how other artists would draw him during the 80s and 90s. Now, Lex's story doesn't end with him having a heart-to-heart with Lois. In fact, it takes one hell of a left turn as his long-thought dead mother, Letitia Luthor, makes an appearance, revealing that she is still on the board of LexCorp and she has returned to Metropolis to wrestle the company back from her foolish son and the alien Superman. Not only that, but Letitia decides to mess with Lex's life a little bit more in classic Luthor fashion and reveals that she brought Lena Luthor, Lex's sister, with her. Considering that Steelworks is diving in deep with the Superwoman stuff, with Lana having her powers return recently, I was sure that that book would be bringing Lena back, especially as well because they mention her in the back parts of the issue where it talks about the different disasters that Steelworks has been involved in. I was for sure thinking that they were building up to revealing Superwoman is going to be fighting Lena Luthor, or Lena Luthor is going to be a threat to John Henry Irons and Steelworks in that book. But here we get something which is probably vastly more interesting, which is a Lena Luthor who not only appears younger, but also is seemingly unmerged with the Mother Box and Warsuit, which she was still merged in when we left her off back in Superwoman, I believe issue 7 or 8, with Lex vowing to cure her and find a way to make her life right. So my guess is he did, and he did it off page. I'm sure we're going to get a explanation on that, because she does still indeed have the strange dot things on her head from when she was in that warsuit, the things that plugged into her head. She still has that on her head. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they square that circle, since that's such a far gone story. That was a couple of years ago removed now. And again, this is just Williamson respecting things that have come before, picking up storylines you never would have thought would have been picked up again, and building on them all throughout his time at DC. Since it's not just in his Superman book that he's doing this, he's also doing it over in his Green Arrow book and doing it really well as well. The big reveals don't stop there, as Williamson sets the Brainiac event up for next year, catching us up with the 12th level intellect and his long building subplot to get the Kryptonian knowledge from Superman and discover Earth's secrets. The big secret being he wants to know why Earth has spawned so many metahumans while other worlds across the universe are lucky to maybe even get one metahuman. It's also revealed that he's working with a Zarnian general called Chakol, who Brainiac uses as a personal army to conquer various worlds and gain more knowledge which he wants to use to gain the power to create life, which we actually saw revealed in this past weekend's New York Comic Con, as it's revealed that he's going to have a Brainiac queen with him, and I'm guessing that is who is in the pod at the end of the issue. We're going to see him, I guess, create a wife, kind of like a Frankenstein's bride sort of thing happening here, which is quite cool and quite an interesting place to take Brainiac. I'm sure it's going to dive into the fact that he feels very lonely and very isolated away from everyone, and he wants a little bit of life, maybe because he's been spying on Superman by having some type of thing in Superman's head that was revealed in the Night Terrors book, some type of tracker. Maybe he's seen how Superman has this life with a family and a loving wife and sons and daughters and all these people around him that love him. Maybe he wants a piece of that. Either way, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Williamson has in store for us. Superman issue 7 was a fantastic 850th landmark issue. It was oversized, it was filled with great art, great story. It pushed all of Williamson's plots forward really, really well, and some really interesting character developments for characters like the Chained, as well as Superboy and Lex and his mother and sister showing up. Just really interesting stories all around. If you haven't been reading this book, I thoroughly recommend it. It's fantastic, and it's only just going to get better as we've got a upcoming Wild West arc which sees Superman blasted back into the past to become a cowboy as he fights with Marilyn Moonlight, and then we've got the big Brainiac event coming. So we have quite a fair few really cool Superman stories coming down the pipeline, and it all comes from this one book. So definitely go out and check it out, and check out the other 6 issues and the annual that came out as well. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.